Since the first advent of the Messiah, called the Christ, the church has been trying to understand when the Christ would return for his church. Now, after almost 2,000 years, it appears the church has fallen asleep. We hear from the pulpits the same old message. Nobody's talking about biblical prophecy. Nobody's talking about when the Messiah will return. There's no expectancy. Nobody seems to be studying the prophets, the prophecies, watching and being alert to the things that Christ had given his disciples as indicators of when he would return and when the time of the end would begin. He warned us of these things, and now we've fallen asleep. Wouldn't you just know it? The church would be asleep just as prophesied in the Bible when the time of the end began. The church is still asleep today, but things continue to march on in terms of prophecy, and nobody's the wiser. On September 11th, 2001, the first seal of Revelation was opened. This began the time of the end, which will be less than a generation, less than about 40 years. Christ will return right on schedule. 2,000 years after his departure would be 2032. After 2 days, he said, he would return. Well, 2001 is the first seal, and the seventh seal will go to the end of the age and the return of Christ. Church, wake up. I've called this presentation Revelation Second Seal, 2008, World War III. I believe that according to biblical prophecy, that the first seal of Revelation is open, and that the second seal of Revelation could be opened this year in 2008, or very shortly, and World War III will start. This is the prophecy about that. A leader from the Middle East, the rider on the red horse, will be given power to take peace from the earth and make men slay each other. He was given a large weapon or a large victory in battle. This is what we should be watching. There are many candidates, leaders from the Middle East who might take peace from the earth. But right now I think that Ahmadinejad in Iran is the best candidate. George Bush just returned from Europe and Israel and England, assuring everybody that he was going to stand up to Iran and not allow them to become a nuclear power and threaten Israel or the rest of the world. The next step is logically to put a military or a naval blockade on Iran and prevent it from getting valuable resources it needs to continue its efforts. However, a naval blockade of Iran would be a very dangerous thing. Iran has got a very large military industrial complex and some sophisticated weapons. If the U.S. puts a naval blockade on Iran, the situation will become very intense, very potentially explosive, and could start World War III. This is a map of the Persian Gulf between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Persian Gulf is not that large, but there's a Strait of Hormuz that you use to access the Persian Gulf, which is only 23 miles wide. Putting the United States naval carrier fleets in the Persian Gulf would be like putting ducks on a pond. It could be very tempting for Iran to react violently to a naval blockade. Iran for some time has been manufacturing some very sophisticated weapons on its own. Plus it has assistance from its trading partners like Russia. Iran currently has a torpedo that's capable of hitting 223 miles per hour. It's a rocket torpedo. And they have some fast boats that are submersibles. In other words, they have some very dangerous and potent weapons in the Persian Gulf against a large fleet. The U.S. fleet would be a rather large target in the small Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has developed some very sophisticated weapons that could be used against a naval fleet in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. They've got some missiles that are capable of avoiding radar and have multiple warheads that can hit several targets simultaneously. With the money they're getting from their oil exports, they have a lot of funds to produce a lot of these weapons, which would be very dangerous to a large U.S. fleet in the Persian Gulf. It's even possible that Iran currently has nuclear weapons, but even if they don't, they could create a lot of damage. I am not claiming any divine revelation other than what God has revealed in His scriptures, the Bible. The Bible is there, and the Word of God is there for the benefit of God's people. All they need to do is read it and believe it. The second seal of Revelation indicates that a Middle Eastern leader will start world war, and he's given a large weapon or a large battle. The first seal has opened in 2001. The second seal could open this year. Once again, I believe that the Bible indicates that the time of the end has begun and the seals are beginning to be opened. The first seal, I believe, was opened at 9/11 in 2001. This year, 2008, it's possible that the second seal could be opened. The seventh seal of Revelation indicates the end of the age and the return of Christ. There's a last 7 years which the Bible details to a great extent, called Daniel's 70th week, which includes the Great Tribulation. So we could have entered the time of the end, and we could only have several years left before we see all these biblical prophecies that Revelation and the Old Testament prophets detail for us to warn us about what's ahead. Now, I've written a couple of books about the last days, the time of the end, and the return of Christ, and the biblical prophecies that are being unfolded and about to be unfolded. But ultimately, you must read the Bible yourself. Otherwise, you find yourself following one man or the other. We've already been doing that for too long, and too many people have been deceived and are believing doctrines that are not found in the Bible, like some kind of secret rapture that's going to happen before all this.